WoW truly does not begin to explain how phenomenal this movie was. So let me try and break it down. In my entitled opinion, Spider-Man No Way Home is one of the best Marvel movies. No, one of the best movies I've honestly seen in a really long time. I was ecstatic in the theater the entire time I was watching the movie. By far, my favorite movie of this year. Fair warning, there will be spoilers, so you've been warned. Here's the thing. I'm not going to give a generic summary like I see a lot of channels do, but rather I'm just going to give my opinion of what I thought of the film and what I think was great and the different elements and the different components that I really think formed the film into what it was. So let's hop into it. Plot. The plot of No Way Home was so fantastically written that I just feel now as though a lot of movies tend to rush certain aspects. I felt like this for a while, honestly, that they tend to throw in random characters in scenes just to add depth, as if they want to add more. But it ends up just ruining the film overall, and just it creates too many slow parts when it's meant to be faster. And Spider-Man had none of this. Every scene felt so beautifully placed. There was no character out of line. Every action held weight and consequence, which is something a lot of people have been looking for in these kinds of movies, as the heroes do something and they never really get any consequence for it. And finally, we see that, and it unfolds in this beautiful package story. Where to begin with the story? There's a lot of spots to unpack, and a lot of good spots to start. But I feel as though the beginning is the most cliche spot, so let's go there. I know that I said I wouldn't explain anything, but I feel like this is kind of necessary anyways. The start of the movie, Peter is facing a lot of consequences and actions because now he's being blamed for the death of Mysterio, which he never really did, but he's still getting some sort of backlash from that. Now everybody in the city thinks that he's a murderer and a killer, and his friends are being punished for it too. None of them are being accepted into any of the colleges they want because they think that Spider-Man is a murderer. And it just shows that he has issues on a much grander scale, but can relate with us. Sooner or later, he'll have issue with Doctor Strange and more internal conflict as he's fighting Strange for the spell to send all of the villains back. But Peter, he wants to help save these villains. He cares about them, even though he knows that they're inherently bad people. And this is another good character development for Peter. Later on, we have Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire that just absolutely steal the show. It's like when Andrew Garfield was shown on screen, it was like a straight hook to the face, and then Tobey Maguire was an uppercut right up the jaw. And it was just so beautiful. The bromance between all three of them, especially Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, is just amazing. It's so easy to get caught up in their escapades and their talks. And when they're in the science lab trying to cook up all of the cures for them, they work together awkwardly, but in a good kind of way that develops them together more. It makes them feel more connected and human-like. Like, yeah, no one's going to have this perfect charismatic scene where they can easily talk to people and people can easily talk to them. This shows a relation to us individuals, as it is hard for us to communicate with other people sometimes, and a lot of the times these heroes are shown as being super charismatic, and for once they're all awkward and relatable, and it's really just quite fantastic that they wrote this in like this. The villains in the movie were honestly my favorite part. They were very well written, and all of them had their specific motives. They weren't just being evil just for the sake of being evil. Dr. Ock had a chip in his head that was forcing him to do everything, but eventually he began to understand that the Spider-Man wanted to help, and soon they fixed the chip in his head, and he became normal again. He was in control of his body. It was honestly quite a nice scene. You got to see Dr. Ock come full circle. Now, the Sandman was there just because he was there. He wasn't a villain. He was trying to help Spider-Man in the beginning until he thought that Spider-Man was lying to him when he found out that it was Tom Holland and not Tobey Maguire. Now, this seems like it's a bad thing, But the reason he sided with the villains was just because he wanted to go home and see his daughter, and he knew that Tom Holland would draw out the process, and he didn't want to wait, so he just wanted to leave. Now, the Goblin's character seemed to be good in the beginning, which was just a front, but eventually he became evil again, and he managed to turn Electro and the Lizard away from Tom so that they wouldn't get cured, because he believed that their curses, they called it, were actually gifts. So they left. They left to go fight someone else, or they left to go wreak havoc, more destruction on the city. And so they managed to save Doc Ock. They went after them, and the Goblin killed Tom Holland's mom, or what the fuck was she? Aunt? He killed her. And this will come full circle back later. So they go to some building that was being built, I think in honor of the Avengers, and they managed to cure everyone. Through this whole fight sequence, they cured Electro, they cured the Dragon, they cured the Sandman. They were all finally fixed, except for the Goblin. And when Tom Holland's character saw the Goblin, he was led by emotion rather than by the hero's dilemma. Rather than being depicted as this good guy who won't stoop that low, he beat the living shit out of the Goblin and was inches away from killing them before Tobey Maguire stepped in and stopped him. The pain in both of their eyes, it said so much about both of their characters. Tom didn't want to do that, but he was driven by emotion and anger. Tobey Maguire knew the pain, and he wanted to stop him before he made the same mistake he did. So, that was it. That was my entitled opinion on Spider-Man No Way Home. I highly recommend that everybody sees this movie in theaters while it's still going around and still being circulated, because it was a great experience hearing everybody cheer in the theater and clap when these nostalgic characters came back. It truly was a wonderful experience, and even if you don't like superhero movies all that much, I still think that you might like it. It still is pretty down to earth and has a lot of emotion and depth to it. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later.